Welcome to the Live Full, Work Fun podcast. This is the show to encourage you to live your life to the fullest and do fun work that fuels your lifestyle. Hi, I'm your host, Gayla Scrivener. Every week, you'll be introduced to amazing guests, useful resources, and inspirational stories. You'll discover opportunities and perspectives to shape your version of living full and working fun. Hi there and welcome. This is the show where we explore topics that help you create your lifestyle to live full and work fun. I'm Gayla Scrivener, joined by my co-host, Fran Groesbeck. Hi, Fran.
Hey, Gayla.
Oh, today we thought we would talk about work environment. And I think that that's a really big deal because as we were talking off mic was how our work environment is how we treat ourselves, how we treat our work environment, how we treat our environment, period, is connected on how we treat ourselves. Can you kind of dive into that just a little bit more?
Sure. When you talk about living full and working fun, which is the goal of what we talk about each podcast, we talk about balance, we've talked about deload. All of this comes back to what messages we're sending ourselves. Well, our environment is one of the biggest messages we send ourselves. Now, you can't expect your environment, whether that be your office or your home or your car, to be clean 24/7, 365 days a year. And you have to be a little flexible, but at the same time, be aware if it starts to get to the point, everything in balance or no extremes, right? So if there's clutter of paper all over your desk, even if you're one of those people, and I had a boss like this who you could ask him a question, he can go to the exact stack and the exact paper and pull out what you needed. Even if you're one of those people, any kind of mess or clutter, and it could be different for each person, it sends a message of what you think you're worthy of being and living in. So, and everybody's environment can be different. Some people like a lot of stuff. That doesn't mean it has to be clutter or chaos. Some people like more minimalist. They like more space and they don't want to see everything. So environment is different for each person, and you're the expert of you, so you should find the environment that works for you. But make sure that the environment you're in, whether it's at work or at play, is sending yourself the right message, and that you are walking into your office each day and you don't feel like your shoulders go down and, oh, I don't want to go in there. You walk in and you feel, oh, I love my space. That's my space. Or you walk into your house at night, you're like, oh, this is my space. Now, we were recording this in the middle of one of my biannual purges. I just cleaned out closets. And so right before the last few days, there were some stacks around this house. There were some piles and things to do. But instead of trying to do it all at once, I'll take 15 minutes one morning. Maybe I'll take an hour another day. Take 20 minutes here. And all of a sudden, it's really in the home stretch and I'm almost done. Setting up things the way I want them to be, what's comfortable for my family, do they have the space and the organization they need? So cleaning up, making sure that the space is where you want to be.
From what I get from you, you're more of a neatnik than I am. I struggle with clutter and stacks all the time. But it's not about that. I think you hit the nail on the head that to make work fun, we have to enjoy the space that we're in where we are actually working in. And for you and I, it's office work. So our office needs to reflect a nice, productive time. And you don't want to walk into your office, like you said, with just, oh, man, I regret being here. Because you could say, yes, I love my work, but then you can feel this heaviness if you walk into a workspace that is not inviting and making you the best person that you can be. And sometimes in our work, we get so focused on actually doing the things, moving to the next thing, doing the things. And so the workspace gets cluttered. You don't put away the tools, you don't log out of things, uh, even with working on Clifford. We go out to the garage and work on projects for our ambulance mobile office, and we will just leave tools where we used them. We don't dust off the workspace where the sawdust lies. It's the same type of thing, but in the office. I mean, you can see right behind me, I guess on this side, I've got a stack of paperwork that I have been dreading, and it has to do with receipts and it has to do with bookkeeping. But it's an organized stack, and I have it out viewing it so that I can tackle it. Then I think I'd like to purge or talk about your purging tactics, your twice a year purging tactics, and dive into that a little bit more, because that is something that I understand that you just pause. You do it twice a year. You pause and do a reset so that you can feel better, uncluttered, unhampered, and feel your office, your home is light and happy. And so is that why you do it? You get rid of stuff, which is great. I think that it's important that we don't continue stacking things up, because I think that stuff creates stress in our lives. So if we don't actually need it or don't actually need to see it, why are we keeping it?
This journey for me of cleaning out started for two reasons. One is to disconnect from the need for stuff. I was a retail therapy person. Purchase make me feel better when I'm having a rough time. Justify it. Oh, but I need this for my office, or I need this for my house. So it was my way, and I decided to embark down a road of every time I went to purchase something, I had to look at it and go, do I really need this, or is it that I want this? And then the third question was, am I going to be throwing this out in 6 months? So through that journey, I found it does make me feel really free. It's if you use the analogy of picturing a closet, right? It's all packed with clothes, and you clear it out. Now the clothes can move and you can see things you forgot that you had. And every day you go to get dressed, you have all these options now, and it's not this overwhelming. It's the same for inside of you and your mind. If you, by letting go of stuff, you clear space in your energy and your mind, and you have space for new things to come in. So it is this freeing feeling. It's feeling that what I have in my home are the things that we need, and I'm not holding on to something for maybe one day I might need this. I will say there have been maybe in the last 5 years, 3 times, there was like a gadget in my kitchen. I went, oh, I shouldn't have thrown that out. But it was a gadget, it wasn't a big deal. I've never come across where I really got rid of something big or expensive and went, oh, shouldn't have done that. There's three criteria for me. If I look at it and I'm like, there is no doubt in my mind. Haven't used this in months, years, maybe even, haven't worn it, haven't even paid attention to it. It's a goner. On the other hand, if it goes, no, I love this. I may only use it once a year, but I use it at Christmas and it has a purpose, so that stays. If there's this middle ground, I have a space where it stays. And then my next cleaning, if I haven't used it, I'll be like, oh, okay, it can go. Like, so I'm not hard and fast on myself, but it really is very freeing. And I'll tell you something, I resonated very much with what you just talked about, the stacks and having the stack, and it's an organized stack and you know it's there. Those stacks for me were a nemesis for a while because it's there. I have it all organized, ready to go. I will get to it. I use deload days now to tackle those particular stacks. That day, I'm going to sit down, I'm going to do it, chunk it out, and just one page at a time, even if I only get the top page done that day. But all of it, all these practices, I feel like when I'm even talking about it, I feel like I could breathe. And it gives you freedom. It gives you real freedom. And when we talk about environments, that leads to that next step that you touched on, which is where are you going to work from? So we work from home. If my office and my home are all connected and set up and clean, and or in my version of clean or my version of happy environment, I can work from anywhere.
Right. And that's a big thing that for me, part of my lifestyle and what makes work fun for me is the ability to be able to work from anywhere. Not everybody has that luxury or wants that luxury. But I believe if we want that, we can create that. So we both have the luxury because we created it for ourselves. And the technology that we have, we can work from anywhere. And I find in the creative process that sometimes we need to be intentional on changing our workspace because our regular office, although we're being very productive and things like that, but there are waves. I mean, it's natural for all of us to have ebb and flows of productivity and just feeling so unproductive and just struggling to, get over that hump. And there sometimes it can be from day to day, sometimes it can be week to week, and sometimes it can be month to month. We're all different. We have different seasons, but I know that I love being able to change my work environment. That's why I love our work from anywhere trips in Clifford in our mobile office, where we are nomadic. We are digital nomads, and we have a schedule of work days that's heavily Zoom days and client call days, and then and that's a compact 3 days that's pretty intense. And then the other 4 days of the week includes travel and more loosely scheduled project work. It's not, I've got to be there at a certain time type of work. But being able to open my door and see a different front, a different office space, because I like to work outside whenever I can, or just open the door to the ambulance and see, a different environment. And it's freeing that way. And living and working in such a small space, you have to be super duper organized. You have to get your stuff out for your office and do that in a block amount of time. And then when it's time to cook, you can't just leave your office stuff out. You have to put everything away and then do your next project. It's living tiny is such a freeing and experience, and I really like that. But then there's the times that perhaps you've got a project going and you feel unproductive, and maybe your office is not in a spot to where you can say, this is wonderful type. If you're able to change your work environment, maybe go to a library or go to, rent what are those things called? Those office spaces. I know that you can get temporary office spaces or rent those incubator spots. That's a really great opportunity because you're out of your regular, not seeing the stuff that weighs you down, to where it opens your mind to creativity in whatever project. And I'm talking mainly, we can do that if you're, in the creative space, like we are, if you're writing, designing, things like that. If you're service-based business and it's a little bit different, your work environment may be different. But I think for any entrepreneur, we have to have that creative space for strategy and planning. So it's really worth getting out of your regular work environment to do that creative thinking and to accomplish that. You've gone to like a mini self retreat at hotels or an Airbnb. That's also an option.
And I can't agree with you more on this one, because getting out of the norm opens up pathways in thinking that on one retreat in particular I took, is where I wrote the program. And that was 2 years ago. I wrote the program I'm launching now. And it just flowed. And I agree with you. Even service-based, what if you're trying to solve a problem? What if you're trying to decide, should I add this service to my line or should I create this product? Going someplace where that's the only thing you're going to think about, whatever the creativity you need at the time, or maybe it's problem solving, it seems to just flow differently when you break out of the norm. I was thinking you and I always talk about breaking the corporate mindset and breaking corporate culture. So a lot of solopreneurs, if you started with a 9 to 5 job somewhere, we're trained with cubicles and offices with doors and the distinction between the two. And this is about breaking that mindset. The first time I sat on my couch, just my couch, to do emails, I felt guilt. I felt like I was
I hear you. Yes.
like I was breaking the law. And when I realized, wait, I can do this, it was really powerful. And when I saw the pictures of where you were working from, I said, okay, I might not have a Clifford, but I could sit on my deck. I could find my different views and where are you comfortable? Some people are really comfortable in libraries. Some people are comfortable in coffee shops. Heck, go sit on a park bench. Like but it's a good practice to like shake things up once in a while and see what comes and flows of it. But it's all about, so there's that environment in where you live or work in the space, but there's also like mixing it up, your environment, changing it up once in a while, whatever you're comfortable with. Um, that saying when like always do something every day you're uncomfortable doing. That doesn't have to be bungee cord jumping. It doesn't have to be.
No, you're right.
It can be go sit on the couch to do your emails.
Well, let's talk. We've talked about the space, the actual physical, tangible things in our work environment to help free our mind. And that's primarily what we've talked about. But let's talk about this. Let's talk about something that's intangible. When we're creating our own work lifestyle and we're moving toward that, and when we're creating our business, breaking away from the corporate mindset that you have to clock in from 9 and clock out at 5, that is hard to break. And I was just talking with a very close friend that she's just, it's hard for her. She's like, oh, I wasn't productive. And she's stretching out her work. She's able to work from her home office, but she is a night owl. I'm an early morning person. But when we are able to do that, we have the freedom to create our work hours. We should. And just because your work hours are set this way now doesn't mean that you can't change them. For example, I started my business and I was really steeped hard in the corporate mindset that I am supposed to. And I felt a lot of guilt if I wasn't doing work related activities between the hours of 8 and 5. I mean, skip lunch, do all that. I'm supposed to have this work pace and work and be in work mode 8 to 5. I did that for, Monday through Friday, right? But who's to say that our weekends have to be Saturday and Sunday? And for right now, my work schedule, I got up and decided one day that in order to make our nomadic lifestyle work better, it would be best to have office hours for client calls, prospecting calls, all of that, where I need to have set times for meetings to be Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday. And then Friday through Monday can be travel, nomadic. It's more of a flowy type schedule. I've got a project to do. I'll do it at 6 o'clock in the morning, work on it, and then we travel and things like that. So I think that we can be more productive if we organize our schedule to fit where we're the most productive. But that's not to say, and then sometimes we have to stop and say, oh, I've got to clean up this schedule. for more productivity, for more enjoyment, because our schedule could get very, very cluttered. And all of a sudden, you're just not thinking work is fun. And when you look at your schedule, you are not spending any time with your family. You're not doing the stuff that helps you recharge. So I think that work environment includes the tangible of how our office looks and what brings us joy, keeping things and arranging things that keeps us light and enjoy our work. And the same with the intangible, how we treat our schedule and balance that work and personal. Because like you said, it's all personal. And we've got to take care of ourselves. And we've got to do things that recharge us. And if our schedule is too slanted, and I think that our schedule needs to change once in a while, because we've got, if we're trying to prioritize and get something done in a shorter amount of time, then something else has to give, right?
That's what our time mapping is all about. And you're so right, Gayla. Actually, until now, I never really made the connection that just as we have the physical, like you said, and the tangible, our calendars are another version of our environment. Do you look at a calendar each day and go, oh, is it too packed? That's what time mapping is about. Do you leave space? We've touched on this a few times, and I know we have another podcast where we're going to talk about where we are talking about busyness. There's these badges of honor we've been taught, especially those of us who have been in a corporate culture, no matter your age. If you've done a 9 to 5 job somewhere, you know these things. Work, 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 work. Fill every second of every day, multitask, no white space in the calendar. There's just all these things we were taught wrong that when you actually give yourself the space and the time, have a better environment in your calendar, go slow, because slow is smooth and smooth is fast. It's another message to yourself of, and like you said, you might look at that calendar just last week, that calendar might have looked fine. Now you have a new project and you come in. So one of the practices in time mapping is you look 4 weeks ahead. You know what's coming for 4 weeks, and then you make sure that that's lined up with all you have going on today. Next Monday, when I go to look at my next 4 weeks again, even though I'm going out one more week, I could have just gotten a project on Friday that shifts that whole plan. So don't try to just squeeze things in. We got to make sure that environment has free space and a place to breathe, and we allow the ability to flow. If it's so packed, you won't even be able to move, let alone flow. So really paying attention to all these different elements of environment are great for productivity because they send the right messages to ourselves. We keep promises to ourselves. We show ourselves what we're worth living in, working in, being around, and that just amplifies our ability to achieve what we want to achieve.
Now, I'd like to kind of close up the show in thinking of this. I believe that we get this feeling of overwhelm or anxiety, and we think, oh my gosh, this hurried feeling, and that you're trying to do the project, whatever that project would be, but yet you feel like you're either avoiding it, not even making any progress on all the things that you have to do. I believe that taking a pause to get that anxiety, that overwhelmed feeling, to take a pause and organize your thoughts, organize your workspace, organize, your schedule is very well warranted. I think that is your clue that, hey, I need a deload day. Because if you're not being productive and not getting to the projects anyway, you might as well take a deload day to reset and get things aligned so that you can chunk that big thing that you're trying to do that's overwhelming you down so that you can accomplish it. So I hope that all of our listeners had gotten something out of this episode by thinking and really evaluating that it is okay. We all get overwhelmed. We all get this anxiety, and we get this like, oh my gosh, I've got to drop everything and do this thing. Take a pause. And I love that. I mean, we had a past podcast episode about deload week, but you could have a deload day, you could have a deload hour, but get that feeling of overwhelmness under control, and you will be able to get over that hump and chunk away. We talk about this all the time. The best way to get somewhere is chunking at it a little bit at a time. It's those little habits that make big outcomes. So I just want to reiterate that our environment is the key on how we operate and how we move forward. Do you have any last words, Miss Fran?
No, I think this covered it all. And make sure that you're sending yourself the best messages you can, because you are the power of how you're going to operate and move forward. So I loved this one.
Well, everyone, give yourself some grace, slow down, pause, think of your work environment, physical work environment. Make sure that it keeps you where you smile and you want to be doing what you're doing. Your schedule, that could be the piece that's weighing you down. Evaluate that. Do some deloading. And let's hop over to Facebook and hop over into the Facebook group, the Live Full Work Fun Facebook group. And why don't you tell us your thoughts? How do you get overwhelmed? What is it that makes you feel better? So again, thanks for listening. And until next time, have a fantastic week. Live full, work fun. This episode has been brought to you by Scrivener Social, the easy-to-use social scheduling platform built for the busy solopreneur. You deserve a system that makes posting to your social media faster and more efficient. Go to scrivenersocial.com and subscribe today.